Okay, this is the review for quiz number 2 in audio 1. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the signal to noise ratio. The thing to know about this is every piece of equipment that we run sound through is going to have a little bit of noise down at the bottom. At the very low levels, there's going to be some kind of broadband, static-y type of noise. And however far down that is the noise floor. You don't want your signal, the sound that we are trying to record, to be too far down, too close to that, because we're going to hear that noise floor. If you have old LPs, old records, vinyl records, and you listen to those, right? That's the stereotypical thing is you can hear the in addition to the song. So that would have a not so good signal to noise ratio. The next thing to talk about is the point at which your equipment is not adding any extra sound and is not taking away any of the original sound, right? And we're going to call that unity. And it will usually be marked 0 dB. Now, that can be confusing, right? Because we just spent last week talking about how dB measures volume, right? So shouldn't 0 dB be no volume at all? The answer to that is not always, no, right? In this situation, yeah, we're talking about adding or reducing the volume that we have. So a lot of those volumes, a lot of the volumes that we're going to use in Pro Tools, if you notice, they're going to be negative, right? -5, -6, -12, and those are going to be reduced from the incoming signal. But if you're not adding or taking away anything, that is 0 dB, it's unity, and I like to call that a good start. So if you're mixing something live, or if you're setting up your recording session, if you try to keep everything right at that 0 dB point, you're not going to be distorting anything, and you're not going to have anything that is too close to the noise floor. Okay, and so that's that brings us to our next part, which is the dynamic range. Okay, so the dynamic range, we're going to talk about this every time I bring up compressors until you all will shout this back at me. Compressors, the thing that they compress is the dynamic range. It's the difference between the loudest part and the quietest part, and it's going to make those closer together. So dynamic range is the difference between the loudest part and the quietest part. Okay. But then once we have that, to get back a little bit to what we were talking about before, you've got 0 dB. Now you do have some room above unity, right? There where we can amplify our signal a little bit more, whether we're mixing, whether it's live, or whatever it is that we're doing to. But we only have a certain amount of room before every piece of equipment, the same way it's got a noise floor, it's got a maximum level. And that's where we distort, that's where it clips, and it makes the bad distortion, not the good distortion that we like coming out of guitar amplifiers and things like that, the bad clipping distortion. And the amount of space that you have from 0 up to badness, up to distortion, we call that headroom, okay? 0 dB to the distortion is headroom. The last thing is, just dynamics themselves. When we use the word dynamics, we are talking about fluctuations in amplitude or loudness. How loud something is, how quiet it is, right? If you were in band in high school, right, your teacher would yell at you occasionally, right? Now, play it with dynamics. Play the loud part loud, play the quiet part quiet. All right, same thing here. Compressors, gates, expanders, limiters, de-essers. These are all dealing with the different volumes, and we call them dynamic processors. I just made that motion. Yes. Okay, but that's it for quiz number 2. Thank you very much.